that's why this stuff is just so apocalyptic anymore, because there's been a strategy as we have to talk about this in these forums, because that's the only way we're going to spur people to action. My opinion is the only thing we're really seeing from that is a bunch of scared people who we're overreacting now to policies that are super expensive and will have virtually no impact. And my bugaboo is electric vehicles, because you can't electric vehicle your way to climate salvation. It's just impossible. And this is really simple arithmetic. And so when people say, hey, we're going to get plenty of electric vehicles, I just keep thinking, these are just more stuff we're making in factories, right? So how is that going to somehow save us? The better thing to do would just be to drive 50% less. And
my question when it comes to the electric vehicles is I understand it from an emissions standpoint, obviously, but beyond the emissions standpoint, yes, you're not burning a fossil fuel, but the energy that you're charging with has to be generated from somewhere. Maybe that's from hydro or water, but it also could be fossil fuels that are being burned to get that electricity that you're charging in your car.
Yeah.
And then the other component that I hear is an issue, I don't know how much of an issue it really is, but is the batteries. Apparently there's issues with having enough of the raw materials to actually build enough batteries to extrapolate this over the vast society, numbers of society.
And there's nowhere near capacity for this. And we're already seeing it. Elon Musk comes out and says there's not near enough capacity. So look, we're swapping one depletable resource, oil and gas, with another, which is lithium and all this other stuff. So either way, you are powering up tractors to mow down mountains to get the materials for something.
Right.
So I used to have this conversation when I was in the solar business. People, because I say, anyone who says, because they would, people would say, well, we're so green. And I'm like, well, we're not green because, the first step of module production is taking that tractor and literally mowing down that mountain and mining for all the minerals. And then that gets loaded up into trucks and trailers and pushed into factories. And so by the time someone calls it zero carbon, is when it's actually working out in the field somewhere and sun is hitting it. But there's a lot of embedded carbon in that zero carbon footprint. So EVs are the same way. So one of the things I did was there's an organization, a nonprofit organization called Project Drawdown, which maybe you've heard of, but most people haven't. But and what they've done is they just have gone through and listed hundreds of different climate solutions. They put cost numbers associated with them, but also they put in a CO2 effect with each of these. So if you did this solution, for example, it would cost this much and have this much effect on CO2 emissions. So, I went to that database. It's online. It's a public site, and I actually did a sort, cheapest to most expensive, which is basically, here, if you're going to spend your money today, which we were being asked to do, which would be the cheapest and have the most bang for the buck. And when you do that, and I included it in here, it's a boring spreadsheet, but it's a really interesting list, because out of 75 items, electric vehicles are 68, which means that it's at the bottom, right? So in other words, it's so expensive for the amount of CO2 impact that's going to have. And the only thing, and the one that's right above it is hybrids, which we already have. Okay. And so I think the top energy item was number 33, which means there's 32 other things that are way more cost effective and would have a much greater impact. And so that's part of this story too, is what's the real problem? What are some of the solutions? But, which are the most effective solutions? And, some of the things are kind of obvious. Use less stuff, conservation, reforest, nature preservation. Don't cut down that forest full of trees to put a factory in there that supposedly is going to save a bunch of trees, right? So a lot of natural farming type of applications and things that actually remove carbon from the air.